Why are Pulsar's Topaz and Tunu helium projects strategically significant?
So it goes without saying, developed, advanced, or mature kind of Western economies or economies worldwide, in actual fact, safe jurisdiction resources are of paramount importance. So the Topaz project, which is located in North America, in the USA, in Minnesota, and the Tunu project, which is located on the east coast of Greenland. Both of these projects, these helium projects, are strategically important and strategically located for both the North American and the European market for a number of reasons. The first reason is reliability of access to that commodity. So if you're selling into a market where your resource is based, then the legal, the financial, the cultural nuances are all understood. So that removes a hurdle there. The second thing is if your resource is within close proximity to the market itself, then as helium, as we're talking about helium likes to leak. So you're not going to lose any product when it's transported from the production site, the facility itself, to the end user. By way of comparison, if you're importing that from somewhere like the Middle East, then you're going to lose up to 15%, perhaps even 20% of the product by the time it arrives in the USA. And the third and final reason perhaps is that's resource dependency. So if your resource is in a safe jurisdiction that's close to the market where it's going to be used or bought within, then there's a degree of built-in resilience. Both Europe and the USA won't need to rely on other parts of the world to produce their helium. So the resources themselves are somewhat resilient to geopolitical tensions, which is only a good thing.
How does Pulsar's production process improve energy efficiency and reduce carbon footprint compared to traditional methods?
Well, we're not in production yet, so that perhaps is a little premature, although, as I've said before, I don't believe we're too far away from achieving that. But perhaps the comparison between primary or green helium, where Pulsar is focused, that's where our main focus is, where helium is the primary economic driver. Perhaps the comparison between that and then other sources of helium, where helium is extracted as a byproduct of other gas. So a good metric to begin with then would probably be if a client came to Pulsar and said, can I have a quantity of helium? We would turn around and say, sure. When do you want it and how much? Whereas if they went to a producer like Qatar Gas, who are one of the biggest producers of helium globally, and said the same thing, can we have some helium like immediately, then Qatar Gas would turn around and likely say, you can have it as long as we have a buyer for the LNG that we're producing alongside it, because we've got to pull the natural gas out of the ground before we can get the helium. So yeah, Pulsar, the objective is that we produce primary or green helium. So we're clean, we're green, and helium is the primary economic focus, and we're not tethered to hydrocarbon production in any way, shape or form.
Tell us about the CO2 opportunity at Topaz and why it's important.
So given the update in our recent resource estimate that highlighted P50 gross recoverable CO2 prospective resource coming in at around about 2.9 billion cubic feet with over 70% CO2 in the gas composition, which is significant given the persisting CO2 shortage within the USA at the moment. And given the fact that we've got new results having gone deeper and having drilled a step out well as well at Jetstream 2, we're expecting potentially that resource there to increase in size. And I think perhaps our early stage investors who picked this up back in the news release, back in Q1 of last year, I think those early adopters there of the Pulsar stock, even potentially they recognize that opportunity as an additional, as a kind of a value add to the helium find, which is already one of the highest grades ever found globally at 14.5% or up to 14.5%. So as a final thought, I would submit that the CO2 opportunity at the Topaz project in Minnesota, USA is very, very exciting. So so watch this space.